The Experts. I'm Jill Schlesinger, editor-at-large of CBSMoneyWatch.com. I am joined by the boss, Eric Schurenberg, editor-in-chief.
Hi, Jill.
El Jefe. I like that.
Always sounds so good when you say it.
So good. And Ray Martin, who is a special contributor to CBSMoneyWatch.com. Welcome, Ray.
Howdy, folks.
He also even gets a little piece of that ridiculous intro. Ray's picture still comes bubbling up on the Ask the Experts intro, which we really need to change.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Are we going to change that, Megan?
Megan. Who? Anyway, also, Ray is a practicing financial planner in upstate New York. He writes our What Works blog. He's the author of The Rookie's Guide to Money Management. And here we go. Okay, here we go. So today's show is basically about retirement. We got a slew of questions about retirement and Social Security. And so let's start by Mr. Eric. Biggest mistake people make for retirement is?
Retiring too soon.
Excellent.
That can mean lots of things, but yeah, retiring too soon. Before you got the money, before you really need to, without thinking ahead about how far you might need to extend that nest egg or whatever you've saved. That's the biggest one.
Yeah. Ray?
Yeah, I'd go along with that, definitely. I think failing to plan for it, too. You know, retirement, it's a series of transactions people haven't done before, like turning on Social Security, rolling over a 401k, commencing a pension, choosing a pension option. But it's also a transition, too. I mean, there's a lot of money issues wrapped up in it, but there's a lot of just social, psychological issues. What are you going to be doing with your time? And nobody stops working anymore and retires. I think that word retire needs to be retired. I think it's transition. And cash flow is a big part of that, obviously.
I think people still just don't save enough. And I think the hard thing is that, yeah, they retired too soon, but then there's a lot of people who don't have a choice about that. I mean, what if you get, you know what I mean? Like,
well,
if you
that's
look at,
true. That's
it's
true.
I always hate to do the plan and say, okay, you're going to work till you're 72, which is nice. It's aspirational. I think it's awesome. But what if you can't? What if you don't have the opportunity to? That's the thing that always freaks me out.
Well, the stats show that 40% of the people who are retired now say they retired before they plan to. And, of course, they're talking probably about planning to retire at 65, and they didn't even make it to that.
Right.
So you're right about that. But on the other hand, if you look at the changes in the workforce, the fastest growing part of the workforce and the one that's resisted unemployment the most is the one over 55.
Woo! All right, there is something to be said for a little wisdom, we call it.
Apparently so, yeah.
Which translates into productivity, right?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Let's get to some questions. If you've got a question, you can shoot us an email, asktheexperts@moneywatch.com, or you can go onto moneywatch.com into our chat room. I see Sharon is there, huffing and puffing and saying, what the heck is going on? We're here, Sharon! Woohoo! Sorry. It was Roland's fault. We cannot blame Megan for anything, by the way, for the next 3 weeks. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's got the free pass. Again, Megan's birth will be broadcast live. We're not sure when, but we're hoping to make that happen.
Right here on this table?
I will be doing the play-by-play, and Eric will be doing the color commentary.
I'm going to go get the hot water.
Her water
Can
is
I boil some
breaking.
water?
Megan's the best producer in the world, so we are very happy about having her here, even in her advanced stages. She's blushing now. Okay.
And she's going to give birth to another person who's going to pay into Social Security.
Thank God.
Gosh, yes.
Could use that. Another FICA taxpayer.
Right. So considerate of you,
Megan. If you really loved us, you'd have twins or triplets to help us out. We need some help
and
here.
you'd put them to work right away.
Immediately. So while we're here, let's actually, we've got a couple of Social Security questions. And I also want to point out that, Eric, you wrote a blog today. Was it today or yesterday? I don't know when it went.
I put it up today.
This morning. And Roland, pay attention here because we're going to go to the screen because we have Eric's fantastic blog post, 5 Social Security myths that have to go. And evidently, Eric got some trash talk from an old friend of his around this blog post. Like, are you kidding me? This is just the most detailed but readable and interesting thing to really understand where we stand in Social Security. I mean, this is fantastic. So why'd you get some grief?
Well, my friend is at the think tank called the Century Fund, and it's a progressive-leaning fund. And I think the point of view of that think tank is that Social Security is the least of our fiscal problems, and if you're going to really make a cut, you ought to aim for things that are less less popular with people and less popular with the Century Fund, like military spending and so forth. And so any argument that Social Security ought to be included in discussions about deficit repair, they don't like to hear that. And it's my friend is an articulate, intelligent guy, and that's his point of view, and he's entitled to it. But I think that we, as taxpayers, I disagree.
I don't know. But I'm just trying to get a rise out of Eric. Poor thing.
As taxpayers and citizens, Social Security's got to be on the table. It's just too expensive. There are going to be too many people drawing on it. Do you know that in 2030, maybe 2050, a third of the population will be beneficiaries of Social Security? That just doesn't sound like it's going to work.
Yeah.
Is his position that we see this line item in our paychecks, FICA tax, a line item, as opposed to Fed tax, which is kind of everything is thrown into that, right? Interest payments, defense spending, and so on and so on. But you see this line item for FICA tax. So is there a feeling that since you see that line item, it's supposed to be going to that, to pay people's checks, pay go, that you're supposed to get yours too? Is that his position?
I think that's his position, yeah. And also it makes, because it seems like a closed system, you pay money into FICA, you get benefits at the other end. Yeah. So all you have to do is make it balance, as if it weren't 4.8% of GDP and 20% of all federal spending. You could think of it as it's off in its own world and make that balance. You can't. It's too big a part of the deficit. It's got to be on the table.
All right.
Interesting.
Well, go check out Eric's blog, which is called Financial Independence. 5 Social Security myths that have to go.
And then pass it to all your friends, too.
Yeah. And then make sure all of your young breeders can get out there and help us out with this.
Breed. That's the fix. Breed.
Let's go. All right. Marie from Pennsylvania says, I began getting my Social Security benefits at the age of 67 and planned on working until I'm at least 70. The continued contributions from my salary into Social Security have increased my Social Security benefits. Okay. My reason for working and getting Social Security was to be able to double the payments on my 5.125%. Let's call that 5 1/8 for us gals. On my 5 1/8 mortgage to pay it off and not have a mortgage at retirement. I continue to make the maximum contribution to my 401k each year based on her income that she's getting. And I will have, get this, boys, $650,000 in retirement funds at the age of 70. Have I made the right decisions? Is there anything else I should change or do? First of all, let me say, Marie, you sound gorgeous, and I think we could fix you up very shortly. Working, Social Security, and $650,000 in the next couple of years. Yeah, we've got a nice guy for you.
We brought this up like several shows ago. A social network, a financial social network. You put in your income, you put in your assets, and you match up with people that way. What do you think?
That's a good thing. I love it. I'm a Yenta. I do it all the time. I also want to point out that right here, I've got something in honor of Eric Schurenberg. I've got my HP 12C up here because I'm about to do a quick calculation. I'll explain it.
Yeah, I'm the only person at CBSI old enough to remember what that device is.
Eric, you and me, baby. We're going right into the home together.
I think it's called an abacus.
Nice. Chisholm Bob. That's what I'm going to use next. Ray, what do you think about Marie's plan?
Okay, she's already commenced benefits at 67,
yes.
Is that what she said?
She started receiving benefits at 67, and she's going to keep working. So she's getting Social Security, she's working, and then probably at around age 70, she's going to call it quits.
There's still a little bit of detail I need to know to say if that's a good plan or not. Does she have a spouse? Is there potential for spousal benefits here? Or is she
I'm
single?
thinking there's no spouse. Let's pretend she's single.
Okay, so she's single, then there's no beneficiary here. Because oftentimes when you wrap up a beneficiary into it, you want to think about taking Social Security as delayed beyond your full retirement age. Sounds like she took her benefits probably after her full retirement age. Okay, so 67, so she got a little bit of delayed retirement credit. She got an increased check for life from that point of view. The cash flow, when you don't need it, you're causing some of that to be taxed, but how much of her Social Security is really taxed? Maybe only half of it. So half of it could be completely tax-free, not a bad idea. Increasing her 401k contributions reduces her gross income, so even lower tax bracket for her, not a bad idea. Paying off debt, love that idea. Get out of debt before you turn off the income cash flow. That's the big thing. So overall, it probably worked for her. I'd like to actually see the numbers before I would tell her a good thing or not. But the fact is she already did it. I mean, she can go back and do the Social Security do-over where you kind of pay it all back and get it. But I don't recommend a lot of people to do that. It's just once you get through all the numbers, it gets a little complicated and it's not something to do.
Eric, what do you think? You're on board with the plan from Marie?
Well, I agree with Ray. I'd add one more thing, too, about the arithmetic of saving in your 60s. And this is not really about Marie's plan, but something that a lot of people think they can do but doesn't really pay off. And that is if you up your 401k contributions when you're old, after 50, after 55, after 60, when you're focusing on retirement finally, you don't get the benefit of compounding over years.
Yeah.
By the time, the $650,000 she'd have, if she had just started a bit earlier, not saying that she didn't start when she was young, but it sounds like it.
650 ain't borscht, though.
It's not bad. Yeah. It's not bad. And so she's probably not the perfect example for this. But look, the point is, starting late, it's impossible to overcome that drag.
Right.
If you give yourself that drag and you're planning, the money you go into your 60s with is really what you're going to be retiring on.
Let me tell you something, a recent experience. I just sat down at a nursing home last week for 3 days, meeting with employees one-on-one, pro bono, okay? A lot of them that wanted to come in were in their late 60s and saving more in their company's 401k. Number one, they got the matching contributions. So that match money was free money. And it was like, why put your money in a credit union when you can put it in your 401k and get the match from your employer? And second, the employer's guaranteed account paid 3% fixed. Their credit union paid 0.05% interest, nothing. So the interest was actually real money. So saving even your older ages, if your 401k offers a high interest, like guaranteed type account, it may be actually a decent way to stash some cash for a couple of years before you retire.
All right, let's go on it. I got a bunch of other questions here. Let's do another Social Security quickly, because this is actually a big snore for most people, but it's important. So I get it. So Greg from Michigan wants to know, he's 60 years old. If he retires this year, then he doesn't work for 2, maybe up to 6 years before he starts his Social Security. So he's going to retire. He clearly has money that's not in retirement accounts or that, that he has access to. And he wants to know, what does the inactive income, if he waits those 6 years, I'm 60, here's my benefit. Now I don't receive benefits till I'm 66. What does the inactivity for those 6 years do to his benefit? What's the deal, Ray?
I don't think there's any impact at all.
Zero.
He's earned his 40 quarters of credit. He's got his high income years, and you work out your average index monthly earnings, AME, and boom, there's your number.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything, so I don't think there's word. But by the way, the biggest downside to taking Social Security early is that you're making an irrevocable decision that you're going to get a reduced benefit, and you're going to probably screw your spouse in the additionally. Maybe, of course, if you're sick and fat or something, maybe it's good to take it early.
Right. That's the only time. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Sick and fat. Sick and fat.
Right. One big, Amy says in the chat room, Amy says, I didn't say one or the other, I said both.
Right,
Amy
exactly.
wants to know, the big concern that she has regarding retirement planning is how to plan for health care costs. Eric, health care, what is she going to do about health care? She's going to have to solve the health care problem right now.
That's a huge one.
Right.
That is a huge one. The number that Fidelity has been brooding about, and which may be low, is it's 200,000.
3 bills, 2 bills, 3 bills, something.
It's a lot of money. You got to have that saved up. And how many years does she have before Medicare?
She didn't say. But she just basically said that she's worried about it. Interesting. I think that one of the things that you can do is you can save more. Oddly enough, that's about the only way you can. I don't see any way really. I mean, long-term care insurance, if you're that type of person. But what else can you do? These are things that are out of your control.
Yeah, totally. Ray, what do you think?
Well, the retirement decision for a lot of people does surround healthcare. I mean, they figure, look, if I leave my employer and you're in a mid-sized or small company, they don't pay for retiree healthcare benefits. So you're going to be, you leave that payroll, you leave that full-time employment status, you where your healthcare benefits coming from. So Medicare Part A, which is automatic at 65 for everyone, becomes kind of a gate. You decide if that's the age, because if you go sooner than that, you're paying out of pocket unless you have a spouse who covers you as a dependent. Then you got to think, do you take Medicare Part B, and do you take D and a Medicare policy, and what's it all going to cost? That's a big issue for a lot of people on the retirement decision is what are my health care benefits? And then there are those who say, well, I'm going to be a retired teacher, so I'm going to have them for life. Okay.
Maybe not.
Yeah, right. Go to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
See how secure
it's very
those benefits
situational,
are.
but that is a central issue on the retirement date decision. The retirement age decision is covering your healthcare benefits. And it's different for everybody.
A question here from Jay, who just sent an email. Vanguard's saying you need to have 85% of pre-retirement income in retirement and draw only 4% in retirement funds. We call that the withdrawal rate. And also have 2 to 3 years in cash reserves for down markets. Are these rules of thumb valid, Mr. Schurenberg? So let's start with the first one. 85% of pre-retirement income in retirement. You feel okay with that? I mean, I know it's different for everybody, but let's do a quick rule of thumb. Does that feel okay to you?
The standard that I've always heard was 70 to 90%. 85% is right in the range there. When you add in things like the imponderables, like, what do you want to do? How much is that yacht that you've been lusting after your whole life going to cost you? What is your health care going to be? I think you ought to end up at the high end of that range,
90.
so closer to 90.
You like that, Ray? 90?
Yeah, that number and that range, it comes off this University of Georgia Aon Consulting study, and it's all different by age brackets. Somebody in a lower income level, the ratio is actually higher. You're in the $20,000, $30,000 a year ratio. That's, think about it. Think fixed costs, phone, food, gas, transport, all that. You're making $25,000 a year. You need $25,000 a year to live. Somebody making $250,000 a year could probably live on $180 or what. So it's going to be a lower ratio depending on your income. But the point is, to Eric's point, it's a range. Do your numbers. What are your numbers?
Yeah.
You need to figure that out. You need to figure out and do some planning with somebody who's going to help you out on that.
Although, Jay, I will say one thing. I love the idea that he says, or she, because it's just Jay, period, Jennifer, that have a little cash on hand as you enter retirement. I love that.
Yes,
I love
that is...
2 years of cash.
Talk
I
about that
really do.
Withdrawal ratio. What do you think of that, Jill?
So the withdrawal ratio, what we're talking
4%.
about is that this is sort of been a rule of thumb that what percentage of your total portfolio can you withdraw to safely keep that the corpus, the big chunk of money intact. And there, it used to be people would say 5%, and I was laughing. 5%, that's a little aggressive for me. And then it 4%. When I left my firm, we were using 3.5% because the research really was kind of pointing towards that was way to. They gave you the best possibility to preserve your nest egg for the longest period of time. So I always thought, isn't it awesome, to be able to say I was wrong and I have too much money. That's my. But rather than I was wrong and I don't have enough money. So I tend to like a 3.5% withdrawal rate. I'm very boring.
I think that's a good idea. The 4% rate, which of course has been vetted and is the product of pretty good arithmetic, however, is based on performance of assets in the past, and who knows?
Right.
Who knows? We know that the stock market doesn't always do what we tell it to, and can you base it on that? You know what? I would say a good number to have in your head is 0%. And divide that by the number of years that you think you need to plan
Just tell us
yourself.
when you're going to die.
Yeah.
We can do a fantastic plan for you if you give us your year of date. Okay, now, guys, we're getting a lot of questions here, so I just want to make sure we move on to this. Chuck just sends an email. He says, I understand a spouse can start taking benefit from the spouse's Social Security even before the worker, the primary, starts taking the benefit. I don't believe that's the case, Ray. Don't you have to have somebody? There has to be somebody initiate benefits for the spouse to then receive benefits.
Yeah,
so that's
right.
my
That's
understanding.
Right. That's
I just want to make sure that I got that right. Okay. How about this one? Lee writes, after working for 40 years, oy, Lee, I know, I feel like I've been working for 40 years. It's only been 25. I thought my savings of $1 million was enough to retire on. Funny how that million doesn't seem as big as it once did. After the crash of 2008, I now have $800,000. Okay. How do I safely invest what's left to live on for 30 years? I no longer work in my field, but I do know how to live on very little. Okay. Let's do our little withdrawal ratio right there. Right? I don't know if Lee...
$24,000 a year?
Well, let's just say, let's assume that Lee has Social Security also. I'm not sure, but 25, let's say, $25,000 from your $28,000 from your portfolio plus a little Social Security. If you can live on that, you can live a long time, right? I just don't know. I mean, I know that people can live on that, and you can live. Lee says it's very little to retire in. Where do you want to invest that, Eric? We got $800,000
everywhere
for a very conservative, right? We can't really blow this.
Right. Well, I think Ray is right. You don't try to make a call. Create a portfolio that manages the risk that you want to take. And so at that age, with that kind of profile, you want to have a whole lot in fixed income, but you want to keep some in stocks because you need to protect yourself against inflation.
You want to do an immediate annuity for any part of that or not?
Well, the numbers show that people who have an immediate annuity for like half of their income tend to feel better about it, tend to be happier, and they have a pretty low risk. But there are problems with
because
annuities.
the rates are so low.
That's
so,
it, Jill.
You know,
it's really tough.
Why would
yeah.
you lock in for your life?
Yep.
For bubkus of an interest rate.
Yep.
And,
that's right.
crediting rate. Yeah.
Well,
And one insurance company too. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's tough.
Aren't they all safe? Ha ha. Just kidding. That was a little funny ha ha humor. Here's a question.
Executive life. Oh,
I'm thinking about putting
oh, they're gone.
New England life. I'm thinking about putting some or all of my 401k in a hybrid annuity. Hybrid annuity. Let's just think about what that means. I'm not
It's like a Prius?
Yes. Right.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
right.
It's half electric and half gas.
Got it. Okay,
I
got it.
think
Okay.
maybe I'm not sure what this is, but I'm assuming that this is a variable annuity, perhaps. Maybe there's some fixed portion, but let's. Your thoughts about annuities in general, as well as putting part in the standard life plan retirement type of mutual fund. I don't know what that means. Low risk, some interest. I like this. I want some interest, like 4 to 8%.
We're in a zero.
I would like 8.
I would too.
Can I have 8 in a stable value
You have
fund?
to ask for it, and you get it.
I'm 72. I have savings account of over 50 grand in addition to my 401k. So here's what I think. The hybrid is basically throwing all sorts of annuity components into one. I bet it comes with a big fat price tag.
Yeah. Could it be like an immediate payout for part, and part of it's
Maybe,
deferred?
and part of it is
Maybe that's
deferred in a
hybrid.
variable, and that's
Yeah, something like that.
probably.
Yeah.
All right. So my gig on annuities is that I very much think that having an income stream is lovely. And Ray, I'm sure you can second this. That, when you see people who are freaking out in retirement, it's about this idea about income stream. Like, I stopped working. I know how to accumulate. I don't know how to decumulate. And sometimes an immediate annuity can give you a nice stream of income especially for those first few groups of years. So you don't have to start pulling out of your retirement accounts. So I have no problem with that. I like a nice, boring fixed annuity when rates are high. The problem right now is rates are really low.
Right.
So you're going to get kind of screwed by making that deal with the devil. Maybe for a portion of it for the beginning of retirement, okay. And as Eric pointed out, you have to be very choosy about your insurance company. I think that Vanguard is probably offering a neat little annuity product that no one's talking about. I don't know why they don't sell it more. You know?
Well, you can be sure it has pretty low costs, but
Yeah.
they can't make interest rates higher than they are.
Exactly. So, in general, I'm not a huge fan of variable annuities. I just told somebody today who works here. I said, you just got hosed. Basically, you put $500,000 in a variable annuity product, and your broker agent got 8% of that.
There are no load variable annuities.
Yeah, but there's only
where
a few.
Total expense ratios for M&E expenses like 25 basis points.
Okay, so what he's saying is
But
that
you
it costs
buy
like
them direct.
right. You got to go to you have to go to Vanguard
And there's
or
no back-end
Fidelity
load or front-end load.
Right. So, but
in or out
if you're buying
any day.
it from
it's about as good as it gets.
a broker,
Yeah.
an agent, or somebody like that, ask that person straight up, what is your commission first year
Bingo.
on what I
Nailed
put
it.
in?
Absolutely.
That's
you
it.
want to know what they're getting paid. It's a big
Yep.
paycheck.
So.
But back to this annuity thing
yes.
that you point. I second Jill's opinion on the fixed annuity side. I think it's a very interesting product at the right time. Unfortunately, it is not the right time.
Right.
Interest rates are at zero, historically low levels. Just listen to Bill Gross. Bonds returns, better days are behind them, not going forward.
Just listen to Bill Gross who says, "Please buy an annuity from
Please
by
equity
Allianz
funds now because I'm dumping. Yeah.
so I can use their balance sheet to leverage my growth of my business."
Don't. You're swimming with the sharks there. Okay,
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I mean, don't. Not now. Wait. Wait 5, 6 years, 7 years. You can hang out and wait. You might find you get a better crediting rate and a larger monthly check, and you'll be older anyway, so it'll work out.
And David asks, how safe is the money in annuities? Eric, can you just explain that a little bit about the safety of an annuity and how the insurance company plays into this?
Sure. It's not FDIC insured, so you're dependent entirely on the credit quality of the insurer. There is some state backing for annuities in many states, but it's not very much money, $300,000 or so. So you're making a real long-term bet on the health of the insurer providing your annuity. You got to have a lot of confidence in them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, here we go. Bill wants to know, if I am 58 with a non-working wife, big problem, you should have gotten a working wife. big problem right there. Make sure your spouse works, and if one that has a pension is the best, by the way.
You got to have a job if
And
you want to
be with me. That's right. There's nothing going on but the rent. If I am 58 with a non-working wife and plan on working to 70, I have an okay retirement plan, but I could use some more retirement savings. I'm 3 years into a 30-year mortgage. Would it be better to invest into mutual funds or take my extra money and pay off the mortgage early? Doing both is the best answer, I know, but not a possibility right now. So we don't know what the interest rate is on his mortgage, but let's just think that if it's 3 years ago, let's guess that it's a 30-year, 3 years ago, it's a 5% mortgage, right? 5.25%, 5.5%, whatever. So Ray, 58 years old, better off paying off a mortgage and getting that, let's say, locked in 4.5% return.
He's better off getting his wife get a job and get
I'm
paid.
telling you, baby, go to work.
What's
But
the after-tax cost of that mortgage?
let's say it's four. Let's say four.
4 after taxes,
Right.
and then versus investing in that's a certainty that you have a cost of 4. So whatever he's investing in, is there a 100% certainty that it'll have a positive return of 4 or more each year?
In 12 years.
You really want for risk. You really want like 100, 200 basis points over 4. You want 6,
Right.
to make it worth the transaction worth it. That's what it boils down to. And at
Yep.
the end of the day, no one can guarantee that. So it's gut feeling. Hope you're a good investor. If you're a decent investor, maybe you'll do okay.
What do you think? 12 years to go, Eric.
I agree with Ray. It's hard to beat 4% guaranteed after taxes right now.
This from a man who paid off his mortgage, I want to say, who flaunts it in the press.
Yes,
Like he can't
Maybe
help
he does
it.
both. Maybe since it's unknowable what will really happen.
Half
maybe
and
he does,
half?
What do you think, Eric? A little bit of both?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
You're at least 50% right.
The one thing you can't lose on, probably except in household peace, is to put the wife back to work.
Yeah. There it is.
And another FICA taxpayer.
There
Social
you go.
Security.
It all
We're going to
comes
save Social Security by
around.
putting everybody back to work.
This is the committee right here to save Social Security.
That's how we're
right
gonna fix
here,
it.
Right.
I get this question a lot sometimes after I go to CNET Podcast. Hello to my friends at the 404 and Buzz Out Loud. Aubrey asks, are target date funds the best option for someone in his or her 20s? Target date funds, those are the ones in your retirement account where you see a date after them. 2010, 20, 30, 40, 50. Eric, what do you think about someone starting off in their 20s? Target date, you into it or not?
Target, a great invention for someone just starting out. For your first dollar, you are fully diversified, and you are on a plan that makes a lot of sense that you don't have to think about. Well, I guess that's an exaggeration. You do have to think about it because they surprised people in 2008. But as a place to start, it's great. And you find them in retirement plans, so you putting money into a target date fund in your 401k, you're probably getting the company match too.
Right?
What do you think, Ray?
All right, throw your money at small cap stocks and emerging market stock funds. I don't know. I mean, you're in your 20s. Take some risk.
Well, okay,
You
so
know,
but the
it's going
point
to be
is
small money. Take big risk, and keep going for it for 5-6 years.
If you want to be lazy, I think Eric, you're saying is like, look,
Eric's
you know
right.
what? Target date is cool if you're and
I think
Ray,
Eric's right.
and
No.
if you're into like sort of saying, okay, we want to really do something here that's exciting.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a question
But
from
Eric's
Roger.
absolutely right. So they're a great way to have all the benefits that he said. Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Roger says, I'm a recent college grad with a new job. Yay! A job! Okay.
taxpayer.
I am contributing to my 401k. My company is matching. I'm also considering a Roth IRA. Everything that I am seeing says Social Security won't exist when I am in retirement. But we'll be happy that you're paying ours. My generation seems to be less than concerned with preparing for retirement. So with time on our side, is there anything else besides 401k combined with an IRA that my generation should be paying particular attention to prepare ourselves for the future? From Roger. What do you want to say? I would say that it sounds like pretty awesome, actually. One thing I was just not sure about is that are you putting money into your 401k up to the match or up to the actual limit? I'd like to max out my 401k and do the Roth IRA. If we have this whole generation where they're basically maxing out their 401ks and putting money in Roth IRAs, they're going to be so much better off than the baby boomers.
And staying out of debt.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I'd mention. Stay out of debt.
Yep.
Get away from debt.
Yep.
That's credit cards paid off. Use them, but pay them off every month. No debt.
And Roger, by the
No
way,
car payment.
and don't buy a house too quickly.
Bingo.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
Rent.
One other thing for Roger. The biggest asset he has is his earning power. Anything he can do to invest in making himself more valuable.
Bingo.
He's got, not only does he have 40 years for his 401k to pay off, he's got 40 years of higher income to build up.
Absolutely.
All right, here's Justine. By the way, Megan wants us to stop, but we have all these questions, so we're going to just finish. I'm 40 years old. I'm maxing, I don't know what that is, close to I think she's saying that she's maxing out her employee-sponsored 401k contribution, $12,000 a year. Well, actually, Justine, you can put more than that. What is it, 15.5, 16.5? 16.5 this year. She's also contributing $4,000 into a Roth. Additionally, I've invested in a few multi-family homes that are paying for themselves right now and should be paid off in less than 8 years. Does Justine not sound gorgeous? I think she does. Currently, they're not generating much in terms of additional income. I don't really care that they don't have that much income right now. It's okay. Let them show actually a little loss for tax purposes. That would be even better. I'm hoping once they're paid off, they will act as income for me. My primary home will also be paid off in about 5 years. Whoa!
Yeah.
I want to stop working in 7 years. Justine, you'll only be 47. What will you do? Oh, I know. At that point, I won't be contributing to my retirement. Should I be changing my investment strategy if I can't do much more in terms of contributing to the Roth and the 401k? I don't have much more I can contribute. Wondering if I should mix it up. Should I sell a house and invest the proceeds? What can I do with my current investment? What changes can I make that would be more advantageous to me? Thanks so much. I want to retire, smiley face. That's what she says. What do you think?
Retire at 47? That is one ambitious goal.
Yeah.
That would, you've got to figure that if she takes care of herself, she would be in retirement longer than she would be alive now.
Yeah.
Or alive of the time she retires. That's
maybe what she means is I'll be living off of passive income instead of having to work for it. Well, managing a rental property is work. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not like you're not doing anything, but you're working for yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of working for the man for that paycheck. So maybe that's what she means by retire, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
maybe buy another property or something like that.
I would say one thing. First of all, I would say that I think she should try to max out her 401k if there's a little bit more room there. I get a little bit nervous about. I used to have a lot of clients who had rental income, and it becomes a big pain in the tushy as you get older. When you're the landlord and so I don't know if you
have a vacancy.
Or you have a vacancy or something. So maybe we diversify that income stream as the market gets better, maybe sell off a property or two, or maybe say instead of having 5 properties, let me do an exchange and find a property that has a different kind of revenue stream or like a managing agent. But I get a little nervous about the rental income as people get older. It becomes a thorn in your side sometimes.
For some people, it works for them. It depends on where they live, the location, the local economy. But I get concerned about cash flow. You got to be prepared when you're carrying that much debt on property and that much in expenses on property. If you start to lose a tenant, a multifamily house, if it's 2-family and you lose a tenant, you lost 50% of your rental income on that property. You got to have a lot of cash as backup here, liquid cash to get at. And we're not talking your 401k and your Roth. That's the only thing to bulletproof the situation. But if she's something she's good at, she's going to do it again and again, and she knows how to make money at it, and she's good at being a landlord.
Go for it.
If it's your thing, it's your thing.
And don't be a pig. If prices go up, you can sell. Betsy wants to know if both you and your spouse work. Hooray! When we reach Social Security age, do we get to draw Social Security for each of us? Do we have to choose one? If one reaches the age first, can we switch to the other when the second spouse reaches the age if we can only choose one payment? You each can claim your own Social Security, but you have to be a non-working spouse to choose half of your spouses, right?
Correct, yeah.
So you each...
it has to be larger.
Right.
Yours is lower, right.
So you just do the math, keep working, don't be so quick. What can I say? Here's one more. This is interesting. I'm 59. I have term life insurance. It's getting expensive. What should I consider in keeping in it? What are the alternatives? Asks Tom from a place, I don't know, some publishing company. There we go. 59. Do you need life insurance, Tom? That's anyone relying on you? Like if you, God forbid, as we say, God forbid you died tomorrow, Tom. Is someone relying on your income? Maybe you don't need term insurance anymore.
Yeah, that is the question. Do you need it? It doesn't matter what the cost of it is. It's do you need it? And at the end of the day, you say you do because you need some liquidity on your estate to pay off debts so your survivors won't have to service the debt or to pay estate taxes or whatever. Then you start running the numbers on some form of cash value insurance, and at the lowest possible premium cost. so that the policy runs out of cash value at like age 95 or 100 when you think you're reasonably going to be
But chances are, if
dead.
you're 59, do you really need life insurance? Unless it's like for estate planning. Chances are most of your obligations are done, right?
Need or want. I mean, when somebody run a trial estate tax return on your estate as if you were to die right now, and see what the estate tax liability. If you're under $3.5 million, then you're not going to have But if you've got a sizable estate and you find paying 55% of the dollar above $3.5 million is reprehensible to you, life insurance may be a way to replace that. It may be a more efficient way to replace estate taxes. It may cost you less on the dollar to do it that way as a mechanism that way. That's all I'm pointing out to. But he may not have a taxable estate, and in that case, that's your point. Do you really need the insurance? It's a longer conversation, but sit down and answer that question thoughtfully across all levels of planning.
Gene wants to know, Eric, the best way to start taking money out of IRA, annuities, 401ks, etc. Now, I think that maybe what Gene is actually asking is which one comes first.
Yeah, I think that you want to use that tax deferral as long as you can. So put off the tax-favored accounts you have until the very end. Let that stuff compound without being taxed.
And the last possible money you should draw is the Roth, because that has a nice inheritance.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. So
Right.
Non-retirement, so taxable accounts first, 401k,
Non-qualified annuities
non-qualified
second,
annuity,
401k
401
third,
IRA,
Roth
and Roth
Right.
after that. Okay, that's good. And I think now we have one last question. RJ wants to know, how do you feel about REITs in a 401k retirement plan? I'm currently investing in both a 401k and an employee stock purchase plan. And I'm taking employee stock. So when you work for a big company, sometimes you can use a portion of your pay to buy stock in that company, and usually get a little bit of a discount for the day you get it. So RJ says I'm getting a 5% discount, and RJ is investing 5% of total income into the employee stock purchase plan. So 10% into the 401k, 5% into employee stock purchase. Eric, do you like that or you not like that?
Well, I like 15%. That's more than most people do, and it's it's what you got to think about for sure these days.
And
as for REITs, the only thing I would say is you shouldn't be buying REITs if you work for a real estate company, for
Right,
one thing.
good.
REITs have had a huge run, so if timing is an issue, and REITs should be can be part of a diversified portfolio, but they by themselves, it's too much of a bet on commercial real estate. What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, they're not common in many large plans. Jill and I were talking about that earlier. I can only think of one or two large companies, like Aetna has REITs as an option in their 401k plan fund investment lineup, but most large companies don't have that present. So your company has to make a decision if it's worth having as a diversification tool in your fund lineup, and they have to pick one and make it available to you. A lot of people get their real estate exposure through their home. Okay, I mean, but your point about real estate is a investment that may zig when stocks and bonds zag, possibly, or they all go down at the same time and all come up at the same time. I generally don't allocate to it when I see it in a 401k plan for folks because it's just something they don't understand. And have exposure to some way or another.
And I'm going to just pop in and say I would prefer to max out my 401k before I ever did an employee stock purchase plan. Just my 2 cents.
What if the stock's at a discount? 50% discount?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
You don't really care?
No, I don't really care. You work there. You got enough risk on the table. And I bet that they have, that they match in their company stock. I'll bet you $1 million that they do. You
In
probably
the
have
401k?
that.
A lot of companies do.
Just I don't really care about REITs one way or the other. Okay, last but not least, this in the chat room they say, wait a minute, I don't get that last Social Security answer. My husband and I can both get a Social Security check if we've both worked our whole lives. Yes! That's so awesome.
That's why Megan has to have triplets.
That's right. And that is why Megan is now giving us the hairy eyeball and saying that's enough. So this has been a great show. Listen, next week, it could be Megan's live birth. It could happen right here on this show. Eric, bring your mitt. We might need it. We might need it. And I am prepared for the procedure. Look at these hands. See? Ray Martin, special contributor, super duper financial planner, author of the blog What Works and the Rookie's Guide to Money Management. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Eric Schurenberg, you wrote a book. I never plug your book.
It's out of date now, but not off the market.
The name of the book is?
Take Charge of Your Future. It's about 401ks. It refers to a lot of tax laws that have since been rewritten.
Go check out Eric's blog on MoneyWatch.com and join us next week here at Ask the Experts. It will be fun. It will be thrilling. We could have live births. We might even extract someone's tooth. I don't know. I'm Jill Schlesinger.
Eric Schurenberg.
Ray Martin.
And thanks for watching.
I knew that I wouldn't. I feel good. I knew that I would.